Broadcasting live from the studios of Fox Sports Radio.
Bang, bang, won't stop till we're legends.
Here's Doug Gottlieb.
The Spurs and the Raptors, who late into the night, early in the morning, consummated a trade. Here's Greg Popovich.
We talked often over the summer about a lot of different things, both on and off the court. You know, attempts were made, to see what would be best. And in the end, this trade appeared, and we felt that this was the way to go. That's all ridiculous. Kawhi was a great teammate all the way through. He did his work. He was no problem for anybody. Talking heads out there have to have stories, and I get it. All those stories that denigrated him in that regard, that was unfortunate and inaccurate.
All right, so Greg Popovich very much taking the high road. He went on to say that he thought both teams are going to end up the better because of it. He's excited for Kawhi Leonard. He's equally excited for their own all-star DeMar DeRozan. I will tell you this, DeMar DeRozan's a hell of a player. Okay, he's a hell of a player. Is he a great three-point shooter? No. Is he a great defender? No. That dude can go get buckets. He can score. And last time I checked, I'm not sure, I know we use analytics. Last time I checked, they give championship trophies and they give victories to the team that scores more points than the other team. That's unless they've changed the rules since then. So DeRozan on some levels is being undervalued because he sucked in the playoffs against the Cavs. As I tweeted out earlier today, the truth is that both of these players had the exact same amount of impact on their playoff runs, even though Kawhi Leonard obviously didn't play in the playoffs. His tongue planted firmly in cheek. So, what do we make of this? Some of it's about timelines, right? What the Spurs have been great, is about extending their timeline as long as possible. Hey, you know what? Let's just be as good as we can as long as we can. And what many other NBA teams do is they try and find the timeline that fits perfectly with when they feel like they can be successful. Let's take the Lakers, for example. The Lakers know that LeBron didn't win a title his first year in Miami, didn't win a title his first year back in Cleveland. And the very strong likelihood is they're not going to win a title this year in L.A. Why move mountains and trade away so many of your young assets when the Warriors are still the best team? And next offseason is a huge one for the Warriors. Klay Thompson's up. Kevin Durant's up. Boogie Cousins is up. Draymond Green is up. Like that next offseason is huge for the Warriors. Huge. This year there were some fissures. This year they could be had. This year, next year, it feels like the Warriors would probably be the best team. So just like the old war analogy, why are we going to line up and try and beat the British Army force on force? They're better that way. But when we can outflank them, now we can beat them. Right? Guerrilla tactics, if you will. All they're doing in LA is saying, hey, we might not get you this year, but we're going to continue to institute our culture. We brought in a star who's going to help show our younger players what it's going to take that next step. And then next year, we'll add a piece or two pieces, much like in Miami, as they added Ray Allen as they went along to 2 titles. Then you take Toronto. The timeline is different in Toronto. It's just different. You know why? Ding dong, the witch is dead. The Cavs are done. The Cavs were their nemesis. Rival means you're competitive with them. Nemesis means they got something on you. They could never beat the Cavs. And guess what? That's over. And so now, if you're Toronto, yeah, you can worry about whether you're not going to sign Kawhi Leonard. And sure, the Paul George thing gives you a little bit more hope. But hell, go for it. You had the best record last year. And if you're simply subbing out DeMar DeRozan for Kawhi Leonard's a better player than DeMar DeRozan. I like DeMar DeRozan, and I think he's being undersold in this deal. But Kawhi Leonard's better. He's a former Defensive Player of the Year. He's an NBA Finals MVP. By my estimation, he's the 3rd best player in the league. He's versatile. He can score at 3 levels. He can defend, and he can essentially defend all 5 positions. And so, yeah, you might not have him next year, but you might not have an opportunity like this next year. It feels like the Celtics are ready, but they have not taken that next step. They still got to figure out, how do we do with Kyrie and with Gordon Hayward and with Tatum. They still got to play together. They still haven't played together yet. Those guys played together for all of 2 minutes this year. The Raptors bring essentially everybody back, and then they sub out DeMar DeRozan for Kawhi Leonard after winning 59 games last season. Their timeline is different. They want to get to the finals. They want to be the team in the East. Their clock is, right, like Marissa Tomei and was it My Cousin Vinny? Right? It's all about timelines. Boston didn't make some dramatic move trading away a ton of pieces last year until they got a chance at Kyrie Irving. And when they traded for Kyrie Irving, they said he fits into our timeline. Gordon Hayward, when he signed there, he fits into our timeline. They're all in their late 20s, because they know once you get to that prime, that 26 to 32, you get as many dudes at the top of their game at that level, multiple forwards, interchangeable pieces. You got a chance to win the whole thing. And now LeBron's gone from the East, and the Celtics like, now's our time. So are the Raptors. It's about timeline. Whereas the Spurs are, hey, let's just stay as good as we can as long as we can. And the Lakers know we're a year away. The Raptors are doing what the Celtics did last summer. Get a regular season record, get a great regular season record, come up short in the playoffs. Instead of sitting on their accolades, they recognize that they're not good enough. So you go out and you try and get the home run deal. What's different than that in Boston? They went to the Eastern Conference Finals. They had an MVP candidate. Granted, he was hurt. And they're like, look, we can stand pat or we can go for it. And oh, yeah, by the way, the Warriors did the same thing the year before with Durant. We completely misremember the Warriors. Oh, they won 73 games. Did they win a title? Well, they had a 3-1 lead. They were also down 3-1 to the Thunder. This idea that the Thunder, or the Warriors were the greatest team we'd ever seen because they won 73 games, dude, they went for it when other teams were tanking. They're really good. But they realized that Harrison Barnes had a ceiling. And so they said, look, we like Harrison Barnes. We love Kevin Durant. The Boston Celtics said, we like Isaiah Thomas. We like all these guys. Remember, the Boston Celtics made an 11-player personnel change last year. They had 11 new players. 11. Coming off of the Eastern Conference Finals. Because they sat there and go like, these guys aren't good enough. We got as much as we can out of that. Let's get better. And the Raptors said, like, look, we got Ibaka for a couple more years. Don't love that contract, but we got Lowry for a couple more years. That's a lot of money. We don't love that contract, but he's pretty damn good. We got, you kind of go through. We got Valanciunas for 2 more years. All right, what's it going to take to get Kawhi Leonard? You're going to have to give up your perennial all-star. I get it. I understand it. I like it. Now, does that mean Kawhi's not coming to L.A.? Comparing Kawhi Leonard to Paul George is comparing me to Paul George. We're just all wired differently. Kawhi's a different sort of dude. I don't think he sits out because you can't sit out 2 straight years of basketball. That's not happening. So I kind of understand both sides to it. And I still think that Kawhi Leonard ends up in L.A. Regardless of, obviously barring you win a championship. And NBA guys love Toronto. Who wouldn't? International city. It's cold. Yeah, you're indoors when you're playing hoop and when you're driving to and from. But here's a guy who said he wants to L.A., and I told you at the time, I told you when the Paul George thing happened, or actually before the Paul George thing happened, Paul George stays, it's going to energize people to go after guys that don't want to be in a home. That's what happened. Remember, at first, Kevin Garnett did not want to be in Boston. You guys remember that? When Kevin Garnett was traded to Boston, it was like, well, you don't want to be there. It's a racist city. Like, no, it's not a racist city. There's racist in the city, but there's racist in apparently all kinds of cities. And then suddenly he got to Boston. He's like, this place is awesome. Because they were winning. And the same thing would happen potentially with Paul George. Although I will point this out. I follow Russell Westbrook on Instagram, and I noticed that they were best friends. And then he signed a contract, and Russell Westbrook continues to gallivant around the globe, and suddenly now all his Brodies are not named Paul George. He's a great recruiter.